1, 2, is this on?
In wrestling, anything can change at a moment's notice, and no matter how much planning is done beforehand, all it takes is for one thing to completely change the course of a match. This can sometimes include the finish and the winner of the match itself. We'll look at various examples today as we list 10 wrestling matches changed on the fly. One of the most common reasons a match will change on the fly is because of an injury. An example of this happening occurred at Over the Limit 2010 during a match between Randy Orton and Edge. When performing his signature taunt of pounding the mat in anticipation for the RKO, Orton dislocated his shoulder.
Ooh, see, look right there. The right arm may be compromised.
This resulted in the referee throwing up the X sign, which usually signals the end of a match. Orton kept wrestling though, but it was clear he couldn't continue. The Viper hatched a plan to end the match. He mentioned this to Edge, who then told the referee. Edge positioned Orton against the barricade and went for the spear, only to miss. With both men down, the referee counted them out with the official decision going down as a double countout.
The referee has ruled this bout a double countout.
Orton was back wrestling within a few weeks, but made sure to alter his pounding to the mat when he returned, as Orton began to use his forearms to hit the mat instead of punching downward. Orton is involved again in our next example, as an injury to the Viper forced the finish to be changed in RK Bros match versus Street Profits on the February 28th episode of Raw in 2022. Montez Ford countered an RKO with an enziguri, and then climbed to the top rope to hit a frog splash. Ford landed awkwardly, however, catching Orton in the ribs.
There it comes! Beautiful splash from the top!
This rocked Orton, who's clearly hurt. Ford made the cover while Orton attempted to get his foot on the rope, only for ANGELO Dawkins to push it away, giving the Street Profits the win.
That was it, Orton!
RK Bro was supposed to have won the match, but due to Orton being hurt, the wrestlers decided to end the match there and then. Orton, despite being shaken up by the injury on the night, was back wrestling the next week as he and Riddle captured the Raw Tag Team titles. Next we have a case of a wrestler turning the crowd's negative reaction to a match in their favor. This happened when Kurt Angle made his wrestling debut in the WWF against Shawn Stasiak at Survivor Series 1999. The two proceeded to have an uneventful encounter, which led to the fans directing boring and Detroit Red Wings chants at the match.
Armbar now applied by Stasiak.
The referee then got word from Vince McMahon to tell Kurt to get on the microphone and cut a heel promo on the fans.
And the referee, he says, go outside the ring, grab the microphone, and say you do not chant boring to an Olympic gold medalist. And I was like, holy shit. Nobody warned me ahead of time, so this was improvisation by Vince.
You do not boo Olympic gold medalists. I'm the best in the world.
This worked well as the fans began to boo Angle instead of the match. Kurt got the win with the yet-to-be-named Angle Sam as the Olympic gold medalist cemented himself as a heel, thanks to great improvisation from both Vince and Kurt himself.
And a real athlete like Kurt Angle, an Olympic gold medalist? How can they boo?
A non-wrestler being involved in a match is always a risk and usually requires thorough planning. However, our next example is different, as we'll see an impromptu moment involving a non-wrestler that proved to be the best of a match. This went down when Shane McMahon took on The Miz in a Falls Count Anywhere match at WrestleMania 35. Shane McMahon had previously turned on The Miz by attacking Miz's dad, who sat at ringside for this WrestleMania clash. Shane was heavy-handed with Miz's father straight away, leading to The Miz's dad later getting involved in the match by stopping Shane from delivering an elbow drop to Miz through the announce table. Then, in an unscripted moment, Shane instructed Miz's dad to get in the ring. The two squared off as Shane gave Miz's dad a hand by bringing his fists up higher in front of his face. McMahon then proceeded to put a beating on Miz's father, breaking one of his ribs in the process.
I wasn't supposed to get in the ring, okay? But he said, whatever happens, just follow my lead. And he was calling me on into the ring, and I thought, what's going on? I'm not supposed to get in the ring. And I got in the ring, and that's where he actually kneed me in the, I broke a rib.
Miz made the save by attacking Shane and then checking on his dad and signaling for the EMT's assistance.
When I was laying down there, he asked me, he says, are you hurt? I go, no. But I was, okay?
Wow.
They didn't know where to take me. I mean, they came over and said, what are you supposed to do? I said, what the hell do I know? I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
The Miz and Shane continued to wrestle as the climax of the match drew near. It came when the Miz suplexed Shane off a production scaffold onto a platform below.
Don't do this! Oh my God!
With both men down, Shane was able to put his arm onto Miz, resulting in a cover, and it was this that got McMahon the win. Miz's father received praise for his role in the match, with Vince McMahon even saying Miz's dad was the chairman's favourite part of that year's WrestleMania. Both DDP and Eddie Guerrero's career were on the upward trajectory when they clashed at WCW Halloween Havoc 1996. The two were on their way to having a decent match, until Guerrero injured his ribs diving to the outside.
When he came down on me, he popped that rib.
The two continued working, but with Eddie's ribs being too hurt to execute the planned frog splash splash finish, Guerrero called an audible and told Dallas to hit the diamond cutter for the victory.
We're both down, and he's going, diamond cutter, diamond cutter. Boom, I hit him with diamond cutter roller. Didn't realize he was hurt in the bag, but that's how giving he was, too. Because he could have said small package.
Oh, 1, 2. No, he got him.
This denied Eddie what would have been a big win on pay-per-view. This made it all the more commendable that Guerrero saw fit to change the finish and award DDP the win. A shoot disqualification is something we rarely see in wrestling, but it occurred during a match on Main Event in 2013 when Fandango wrestled Kofi Kingston. The two were in the midst of a 2-segment match when Kofi geared up for his finishing move, the Trouble in Paradise. Fandango's valet, Summer Rae, was to pull out Kingston's foot to cause the distraction and give Fandango the advantage. However, Summer grabbed Kofi's foot in view of the referee, who then promptly called for the disqualification, thus declaring Kingston the winner.
I grabbed and the ref saw, rang the bell, and disqualified him. And I think at this point he hadn't won a lot in a while, and they was finally going over, and my heart stopped.
Fandango had originally been booked to win, presumably as a result of Summer's distraction, but because the ref saw her getting involved, he decided to end the match there and then. When The Rock met Hulk Hogan in the Icon vs Icon clash at WrestleMania 18, both men agreed that they would feel the crowd before deciding what way the match would go. Following the opening exchange, The Rock realized the role he would play in the bout as the crowd leaned in favor of Hogan over the Great One. From there, The Rock began to heel it up, swinging the audience firmly in the direction of the Hulkster.
But in that moment, something told me, my gut spoke to me and said, I'm going to sell this thing like a heel.
The two would go on to have a history-making match, with the crowd in the palm of their hands every step of the way. The fans maintained an electric energy, the likes of which had rarely been seen before, and certainly hasn't been seen since. Following the People's Elbow, The Rock captured the greatest victory of his career. The decision to work the match as a heel proved genius, but there was still one more audible to be called, this time coming from the gorilla position, as Hall and Nash were ordered down the ring to turn on Hogan. This was done so Rock and Hogan could clean house and stand tall together as crowd favorites following the match. And this was exactly what happened as Hogan posed for the fans, with The Rock watching on in approval.
Hogan also told me that he didn't realize the NWO was going to turn on him after that match. They just came up with that on the spot at WrestleMania.
Rock and Hogan later posed on the ramp to cap off one of wrestling's most legendary matches. Another audible being called involving The Rock occurred on Raw's War in September 1998. The Great One, who was on his ascent to the main event, teamed with rivals at the time, Ken Shamrock and Mankind, to take on The Undertaker and Kane in a handicap tag team match. Mankind, Rock and Shamrock began to brawl before their opponents even entered the ring. Then, once things got going, it became a race against time to finish the match before the show went off the air. Earl Hebner could audibly be heard telling the wrestlers they had 25 seconds to wrap up. But the battle against the clock got tougher after Rock and Taker messed up a move. They repeated the spot which saw the People's Champion hit the rock bottom to defeat the Phenom clean in the middle, giving the Dead Man his first true clean loss since debuting with the company 8 years prior. Taker would later reveal that the tightness for time and botched finishing sequence resulted in him deciding that the Rock should win.
I had to audible. We were in trouble time-wise. I remember telling him, I was, all right, kid, it's your night. You hit me with the rock bottom and beat me. It was the right thing to do for business.
Wow. Last minute changes are nothing new in wrestling, but the finish of a match being changed whilst the wrestlers are making their entrance is less common. Nevertheless, this is what happened when Tommy Dreamer fought Daivari at the infamous December to Dismember pay-per-view in 2006. During Daivari's entrance, we can see the referee being told in his earpiece that the finish had been changed, as Dreamer, who was initially the one going over, would now be losing the match.
And they changed the finish on me, but I have to still get chokeslammed by the Great Khali. I'm pissed, but I'm just like, I'll show them. I'll take a crazy bump.
A furious Dreamer walked to the ring as he and Daivari wrestled a nothing match that saw the Great Khali get ejected from ringside for causing Dreamer to fall out of the ring. The finish came when Daivari countered a DDT into a schoolboy. Afterward, Dreamer chased Daivari to the back, only for the innovator of violence to be grabbed by the Great Khali, who gave Tommy a nasty tree slam.
No. Oh no, oh my God, no!
Following the match, Dreamer attempted to quit the company after being part of perhaps the worst pay-per-view in WWE history.
Vince goes to the end of the room. I go, what the fuck did I ever do to deserve this? And he goes, Tommy, it was my decision. It was the wrong decision, and I apologize. And then he goes, I don't know what to do with ECW.
Our final moment involves Ryback being forced to change his match on the fly when he squared off with Tensai on the October 1st, 2012 edition of Raw. Ryback was in the midst of a winning streak at the time, and it became clear Tensai would be no match for the big guy, as following a meet-up clothesline, Ryback signaled for the Shell Shock, which was the planned finish for the match. However, problems arose as Ryback struggled to get Tensai up for the move, falling on both attempts. This led to Ryback instead finishing the match with a second meet-up clothesline. Ryback had successfully hit the Shell Shock on Tensai the previous previous week, but this time round it was simply a case of the big guy struggling to get Tensai on his shoulders. RYBACK later revealed this while also denying Tensai tried to sandbag him. And that brings us to the end of this video. As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you like this one, be sure to check out our similar video on 10 wrestling matches with botched finishes. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.